You have carried the weight of the world on your shoulders your entire life. You wake up each morning with a crushing sense of responsibility. Everything depends on you. Your success, your family, your finances, your future, all resting on your ability to make things happen. You work harder, push longer, sacrifice more. Yet somehow, despite all your effort, you feel exhausted, depleted, running on empty. You pray for help but still feel alone in the struggle. You ask for guidance but end up relying on your own understanding. You seek divine intervention but keep trying to force outcomes through sheer willpower. This is the burden of believing you must do it all yourself. This is the exhaustion of thinking your human effort is the source of all good things. This is the prison of separation from the very power that created you. Jesus spoke a truth that religious institutions have quoted for 2,000 years, but few have truly understood. In John 1:4, 1:0, he said, "I do not speak on my own authority, but the Father who dwells in me does the works. Not I, but the Father, not human effort, but divine action, not personal will, but infinite intelligence expressing itself through the individual." Joel Goldsmith spent his life unlocking the practical meaning of this statement. He discovered that these were not just beautiful religious words meant to inspire faith. They were a revelation of how reality actually operates. They were the key to ending human struggle and accessing unlimited divine resource. They were the secret to living from grace instead of grinding through life by force. Today, you will learn what nobody taught you about this profound truth. The specific practices Joel Goldsmith used to shift from human effort to divine accomplishment. The exact way to stop exhausting yourself and start allowing infinite wisdom to work through you. The revolutionary understanding that will transform every single area of your life without the strain, stress, and struggle you have known until now. Most people approach life completely backwards. They believe they are separate individuals who must accomplish everything through personal effort. They think success comes from working harder, being smarter, pushing through obstacles by sheer determination. They view God as a distant helper who might assist if properly petitioned. They pray for strength to do what they must do. They ask for guidance to make the right decisions. They beg for resources to accomplish their goals. This entire framework is built on a fundamental illusion. The illusion that you are a separate self, cut off from the source of all power, working alone to create your life. The illusion that your human mind and effort are the creators of your experience. The illusion that divine power is something external that you must convince to help you. Joel Goldsmith called this the original sin. Not a moral failing, but a mistake in perception. A misunderstanding of identity that creates every other problem in human experience. Here is the truth that will set you free. You are not a person who occasionally connects with God. You are the presence of God, individualized as you. The Father is not a being separate from you waiting to be petitioned. The Father is the consciousness, the life, the intelligence that is your true nature. When Jesus said, "The Father dwells in me," he was not claiming a unique relationship unavailable to others. He was revealing the truth about all of us. The infinite lives in you as you. This is not theology. This is the fundamental structure of reality. Everything you see as separate from you. Your body, your circumstances, your problems, your goals. All of it is consciousness appearing as form. And consciousness is not your possession. Consciousness is what you are. Your true self is not the limited personality struggling through life. Your true self is the infinite expressing itself as this particular individual. Joel discovered that when you truly grasp this, when you shift from believing "I must do" to knowing the Father within does the works, everything changes. Not in some distant future after years of spiritual practice, but immediately, in the very moment the shift occurs, not through greater effort but through releasing effort, not by becoming more powerful but by recognizing the power that already is. Let me show you the difference between these two ways of living. Two completely opposite approaches to every situation you face. When operating from "I do," you wake up and immediately feel the weight of responsibility. Your mind races through the to-do list. You calculate what must be accomplished. You worry about how to make it all happen. You feel anxiety about whether you have enough time, enough resources, enough ability. You approach your work with tension. You push through tasks with willpower. You force solutions through mental effort. You manipulate circumstances to create desired outcomes. You control. You struggle. You strive. When problems arise, you panic. When obstacles appear, you stress. When things do not go according to plan, you spiral into fear and frustration. This is exhausting because you are trying to be the source when you were designed to be the expression. You are attempting to create when you were meant to receive and manifest. You are working as if separate when you are actually one with infinite intelligence. Now consider the alternative. When living from the Father within does the works, you wake up in acknowledgement. Before the mind starts racing, you turn within. You recognize the presence. You silently affirm, not as words you are trying to believe, but as truth you are remembering. The Father within me is the only power. Infinite intelligence guides all activity. Divine wisdom knows exactly what needs to happen and flows through me to accomplish it. I am not the doer. I am the instrument through which the doer works. You approach your day from this foundation. You do not eliminate action. Jesus worked. He taught. He healed. He traveled. But the action flows from a different source. Instead of forcing, you are moved by inner prompting. Instead of controlling, you are responsive to intuitive guidance. Instead of manipulating circumstances, you trust divine order to arrange everything perfectly. When challenges arise, you do not panic. You turn within and acknowledge. The Father in me knows the answer and is even now bringing it forth. When obstacles appear, you do not stress. You recognize. Infinite intelligence is moving through this situation in ways my limited human mind cannot see. When things do not go according to your plan, you do not spiral. You understand that a higher plan is unfolding. The difference is not just emotional. Though peace replaces anxiety, the difference is not just mental. Though clarity replaces confusion, the difference is in results. When you truly live from the Father within does the works, solutions appear that your human mind could never have conceived. Resources flow from unexpected channels. Doors open that you did not even know existed. The right people, the right opportunities, the right circumstances align with an intelligence far beyond human planning. This is not magical thinking. This is not positive affirmation trying to convince yourself of something untrue. This is alignment with how reality actually operates. Consciousness is cause. The invisible is the source of the visible. The Father within. Infinite intelligence. Divine wisdom. Whatever term you prefer. This is the only power that has ever accomplished anything. Your role is not to be that power. Your role is to let that power flow through you unobstructed. The moment you grasp this, truly grasp it, not just intellectually but as lived experience, you step out of struggle and into grace. Let me give you 5 examples that demonstrate this principle in action. These are not theoretical. These are actual demonstrations of what happens when someone shifts from human effort to allowing the Father within to do the works. The first story takes us back 3,000 years to a shepherd in the desert. Moses stood before a burning bush, hearing a voice call him to an impossible task. Go to Pharaoh and bring my people out of Egypt. Moses responded with the voice of human limitation. Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh? I am not eloquent. I am slow of speech. They will not believe me. The entire conversation was Moses listing all the reasons he could not do this work. He was seeing from the perspective of, I must do this. And from that perspective, it was indeed impossible. But God did not say, try harder, Moses. You can do it if you really push yourself. God revealed the true source of accomplishment. I will be with you. I will teach you what to say. I will perform the signs. It was never about Moses doing the work. It was about God doing the work through Moses. Once Moses accepted this, Once he stopped focusing on his limitations and started trusting the power within him, miracles followed. The plagues were not Moses conjuring supernatural power through personal ability. They were divine intelligence manifesting through a willing instrument. The parting of the Red Sea was not Moses manipulating water molecules through mental concentration. It was the Father within doing the works, while Moses stood in acknowledgement. Every single miracle came from this principle. The human stepped aside. The divine stepped forward. The Father within did the works. Moses walked through the entire Exodus, not by his own power but by continually turning within and letting infinite wisdom guide each step. When the people complained, Moses did not panic and try to solve problems through human scheming. He turned within and received instruction. Water from the rock, manna from heaven, quail in the wilderness. None of this came from Moses figuring it out. All of it came from the Father within doing the works. This is the pattern for every true accomplishment. The second story is a modern businessman named David. By age 40, David had built a successful company through sheer determination and relentless work ethic. 16-hour days, 7-day weeks, complete control over every decision. He told himself this was what success required. Sacrifice, discipline, never stopping, never resting, always pushing. Then his body gave out, hospitalized with stress-induced illness. Doctor's orders, complete rest or face serious consequences. But David could not rest. His mind raced constantly. How will the business survive without me? What if employees make wrong decisions? What if clients leave? What if everything falls apart? In the hospital bed, unable to work, unable to control anything. David hit a wall. A friend brought him a book by Goldsmith. David almost threw it across the room. Mystical spiritual teaching seemed completely irrelevant to his crisis. But with nothing else to do, he read. One passage stopped him cold. You are not the source of your business success. You never were. The intelligence that built your company was never your personal intelligence. It was infinite wisdom flowing through you. Your exhaustion came from trying to be the source instead of the channel. You thought you were doing the work. Actually, the Father within was doing the work all along. But you took credit and felt the burden. David sat with this for hours. Could it possibly be true? Had he been exhausting himself trying to be something he was never meant to be that night? He practiced for the first time, lying in the hospital bed. He silently acknowledged, the Father within built this company. The Father within sustains it. The Father within knows exactly what needs to happen. I release all burden. I release all control. I trust infinite intelligence to guide my employees, to maintain relationships with clients, to handle everything I cannot handle. It was terrifying to let go. It was also the most relief he had felt in years. David remained in the hospital for 2 weeks. During that time, his business not only survived, but thrived. His management team made excellent decisions. Clients felt more cared for because employees were not overwhelmed. New opportunities emerged that David would have been too busy to notice. When he returned to work, David operated completely differently. Before making decisions, he took moments of inner silence. Instead of forcing his will, he listened for inner prompting. Instead of controlling everything, he delegated and trusted. Instead of carrying the weight, he acknowledged the Father within knows exactly how to manage this company. 3 years later, the business had doubled while David worked half the hours. His health recovered fully. He described it as discovering he had been trying to power a house by manually turning a generator when all along the house was connected to unlimited electricity. The moment he stopped trying to be the power and simply plugged into the actual source, everything lit up effortlessly. The third story involves a woman named Maria whose 8-year-old son was diagnosed with a serious illness. Doctors gave guarded prognoses. Treatment would be long and difficult with uncertain outcomes. Maria did what most parents would do. She prayed desperately, "Please, God, heal my son. Give me the strength to get through this. Show me what to do. Help the doctors find the right treatment." Every prayer came from the assumption that she was a separate person, asking an external God to intervene in a terrible situation. She meant well, but she was approaching it entirely from human effort and divine petition. A friend who practiced Joel Goldsmith's teachings sat with Maria one afternoon. She said something that initially made Maria angry. "You are trying to heal your son. You cannot. You do not have that power. But here is what you can do. You can acknowledge that the Father within your son is perfect life. You can recognize that infinite intelligence already knows the perfect unfoldment. You can stop interfering with your fear and instead rest in the truth that God is not outside trying to fix a problem. God is the very life of your child, incapable of disease." Expressing perfection, Maria wanted to argue. This felt like denial. This felt like passivity when she should be fighting for her child. But something deeper in her recognized truth. That night, instead of praying for healing, Maria practiced recognition. She sat quietly and acknowledged, "The Father within my son is perfect life. This appearance of illness has no power over the truth of his being. I release my fear. I release my need to control the outcome. I trust infinite wisdom to express his perfect health." She did this not once but many times each day. Whenever fear arose, she turned within and acknowledged the truth. This did not mean she stopped medical treatment. The doctors continued their work. But Maria stopped carrying the burden. She stopped trying to heal through the force of her will and worry. She rested in knowing the Father within was doing the works. The shift in her was palpable. The anxiety that had consumed her began to dissolve. A deep peace settled in even amidst the circumstances, and her son began to improve. Steadily, consistently, beyond what doctors expected. Within 6 months, he was declared completely healthy. The doctors called it remarkable. Maria knew what had happened. She had stopped trying to be the healer and had allowed the Father within, the perfect life that was her son's true nature, to do the work of manifesting his health. Years later, she would say, "I learned that my job was never to make healing happen. My job was to stop blocking it with fear and instead recognize the perfection that was already present." The fourth story comes from the Bible itself. From the Apostle Paul. Paul had what he called a thorn in the flesh. We do not know exactly what it was. Some physical ailment or limitation that caused him suffering. 3 times Paul prayed for God to remove it. He wanted healing. He wanted relief. He wanted the problem fixed. But the answer he received was not what he expected. "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." Paul had been approaching this from, "I need to be healed." He was seeing himself as a person with a problem, asking God to fix the person. But the revelation shifted everything. It was not about Paul becoming stronger or better. It was about recognizing that divine power was always present, always working, always sufficient. Paul's weakness, his inability to fix the problem through human effort, actually created the space for him to experience that the Father within was doing all the works. After this revelation, Paul wrote, "Therefore I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. For when I am weak, then I am strong." He had discovered the paradox. Human strength, human effort, the belief that I must do it. This actually blocks the flow of divine power. But when you recognize your human limitation, when you acknowledge "I cannot do this, but the Father within can and does," then you become a clear channel for infinite power to work through. Paul accomplished extraordinary things after this revelation. He traveled thousands of miles. He established churches throughout the known world. He wrote letters that have influenced billions of people for 2,000 years. Was this Paul doing the work? No. It was the Father within Paul doing the works while Paul remained conscious of being the instrument rather than the source. The fifth story is about a man named James, a talented artist who had experienced a devastating creative block. For months, nothing came. Every attempt to paint felt forced, lifeless, empty. James tried everything. He changed his environment. He studied other artists. He used different techniques. He set strict schedules. Nothing worked. The harder he tried, the worse it got. He was approaching creativity as something he had to produce through effort. His entire focus was on, I must create. I must make something good. I must overcome this block. Finally, in complete frustration, he stopped trying. He did not stop painting out of surrender to failure. He stopped trying to be the source of creativity. One morning, he sat before a blank canvas and instead of forcing himself to paint, he became quiet. He acknowledged silently, creativity is not mine. It never was. All true art comes through the artist, not from the artist. The Father within is infinite creativity. I am the brush through which divine beauty expresses itself. I release all effort. I allow the creative flow to move through me. He sat in that acknowledgement for several minutes. Then, without planning, without deciding what to paint, his hand moved. Colors appeared on the canvas. Forms emerged. He was painting, but it did not feel like he was doing it. It felt like something was painting through him. He had become the instrument. For hours he painted in this state. When he finally stepped back, he saw the most powerful work he had ever created. And he knew he had not created it. He had allowed it to be created through him. The Father within had done the work. From that day forward, James never approached art the same way. Before each session, he took time to acknowledge the source. He never again believed he was the creator. He knew himself as the channel through which infinite creativity expressed itself. His work flourished, not through greater effort, but through releasing effort and allowing the flow. These 5 examples, Moses, David, Maria, Paul, James, all demonstrate the same principle. When human effort steps aside and allows the Father within to do the works, the impossible becomes possible. The overwhelming becomes manageable. The blocked becomes flowing. This is not about doing nothing. Notice that all 5 took action. Moses walked toward Egypt. David continued to run his business. Maria maintained medical care. Paul traveled and preached. James painted. The difference was the source of the action, not from human will forcing outcomes, but from divine intelligence flowing through willing instruments. Now let me show you the specific practices Joel Goldsmith taught for making this shift in your own life. If these stories of transformation are opening your eyes to a new way of living, like this video to help others discover that they do not have to carry the weight alone. Subscribe to the channel to learn more about living from the divine source within you. And comment which story made you think most deeply about where your effort is truly coming from. The first practice Joel taught is what he called the practice of not I. Every morning before you do anything else, before checking your phone, before planning your day, before thinking about your problems or goals, take 5 minutes for this practice. Sit quietly. Close your eyes. Do not pray for anything. Do not ask for anything. Do not try to make anything happen. Simply acknowledge the truth. Not I, but the Father within me does the works. The infinite intelligence that created galaxies and atoms is the consciousness I am. Every breath I breathe is divine life breathing itself. Every thought of truth I have is divine mind thinking through me. Every action I take today will be divine wisdom moving through this body. I am not the source. I am the instrument. I am not the doer. I am the one through whom the doing happens. Sit with this acknowledgement, not as words you are trying to believe, but as truth you are remembering. This is not affirmation attempting to create reality. This is recognition of reality that already is. When thoughts of what you must do arise, gently return to, not I, but the Father. When worries about how you will accomplish everything intrude, come back to the Father within does the works. You are not fighting thoughts. You are simply choosing first. Choosing to prioritize consciousness over circumstances, recognition over responsibility, truth over appearances. Joel insisted you must do this first, before anything else. Because if you truly put first things first, If you genuinely prioritize acknowledging the source before engaging the day, everything else changes. Not by your effort, but by spiritual law. The inner must express as the outer. Consciousness must manifest as experience. This is divine order. This is how reality operates. Here is what most people do not understand about this practice. Results do not come from performing it perfectly. They come from sincere recognition. Joel worked with thousands of students. Some experienced immediate shifts. Others took weeks to feel the change. The difference was not talent, not worthiness, simply depth of recognition. You might practice today and feel nothing. That is normal. You are undoing years of conditioning that taught you to find security in personal effort. You are rewiring neural pathways that have made self-sufficiency your default mode. Be patient with yourself. Keep returning to not I, but the Father. Keep prioritizing recognition over reactivity. Some days you will feel deep peace. Some days your mind will resist. Both are part of the journey. Joel himself described periods of inner wilderness before breakthrough. The key is consistency, not perfection. Every morning, acknowledge not I, but the Father, even for 60 seconds, especially when life feels chaotic, especially when circumstances demand your attention. Because here is the mystical truth. The moment you truly put first the acknowledgement of the Father within doing the works, everything else becomes secondary. Not less important, but less urgent. Not neglected, but handled from a place of inner fullness rather than desperate emptiness. The second practice is recognizing the presence before action. Most people leap into action from anxiety. A problem appears and immediately the mind races to solve it. A bill arrives and panic drives frantic scrambling. A health symptom shows up and fear launches desperate research. A conflict erupts and emotion triggers reactive response. All of this is acting from human effort, from the belief that you must fix it. You must handle it. You must make it better. Joel taught a different response. When challenge appears, pause before reacting, before planning, before panicking, before doing anything. Turn within. Acknowledge the Father within. Silently recognize that infinite intelligence is present and is already moving in this situation. Divine wisdom knows exactly what needs to happen. The perfect outcome is already established in consciousness. I do not need to figure this out through limited human thinking. I need to be still and know. I need to listen. I need to allow inner guidance to direct my steps. This pause changes everything. It breaks the automatic pattern of human effort trying to control circumstances. It creates space for divine intelligence to flow into awareness. Practice this today. The next time difficulty appears, take 3 conscious breaths. Affirm inwardly, the Father within me is the only power in this situation. Infinite wisdom governs all things. I acknowledge divine presence first. Then, from this centered place, handle the practical aspects. You will find solutions appear more clearly. Action flows more naturally. Results come more harmoniously. This is not positive thinking. This is priority shifting. You are training yourself to automatically acknowledge source first, to default to recognizing presence rather than panicking at appearances, to live from the Father within regardless of outer circumstances. Joel emphasized this becomes natural with practice. Like learning any skill. Initially, it feels forced. Eventually, it becomes your new normal. You stop leading with human reaction and start leading with divine recognition. The third practice is shifting from I need to the Father provides. When you experience lack of any kind, the human tendency is to focus on the need. I need money. I need a job. I need health. I need a relationship. I need a solution. Every I need statement is actually an affirmation of separation. It declares, I am a separate self who lacks something and must obtain it from outside myself. It places you in the position of beggar rather than heir. It makes circumstances the power and you the victim of circumstances. Joel taught a revolutionary shift. When you notice lack, do not affirm the opposite. That is still operating at the level of human effort trying to create supply. Instead, acknowledge the truth of source. The Father within me is infinite abundance. Divine substance is the source of all form. Supply does not come from jobs or people or investments. Supply comes from consciousness, recognizing its own infinite nature. The outer is merely the channel through which inner abundance manifests. This is not denying practical reality. You still take appropriate action. You apply for jobs. You manage finances wisely. You maintain your health. But you do it from a completely different foundation. Not from I must create supply through my effort, but from I acknowledge infinite supply already exists in consciousness, and I allow it to manifest through whatever channels infinite wisdom chooses. The difference seems subtle, but the results are profound. When you live from I need, you are constantly anxious, constantly pushing, constantly feeling not enough. When you live from the Father within is infinite supply. You rest in sufficiency, even when outer appearances have not yet caught up with inner truth. You work from fullness, not lack. You act from inspiration, not desperation. You trust timing, not force outcomes. Joel witnessed countless examples of this principle in action. People lost jobs and found better opportunities. Businesses failed, and new ventures emerged. Debts piled up and unexpected resources arrived. Not through wishful thinking, but through consciousness shift. When you truly acknowledge source first, supply follows through channels you could never have planned or predicted. This is grace. This is the Father within doing the works. This is what happens when consciousness precedes condition. The fourth practice is surrendering outcomes to God. Most people work themselves into exhaustion because they believe they must make things turn out right. They carry responsibility not just for action but for results. They think their worth depends on success. They fear failure reflects on their adequacy. This entire burden is based on the illusion that you are the doer. Joel taught complete surrender of outcomes. You do your part. Whatever action flows from inner guidance, but the results belong to God. Not to some external deity judging your performance, but to the infinite intelligence that knows outcomes far better than your limited human mind could ever conceive. Before every endeavor, acknowledge, silently, the Father within knows the perfect outcome. I release my attachment to how this should look. I trust divine wisdom to manifest results that serve the highest good. I do my part and surrender the rest. This is not irresponsibility. This is recognition that you are not responsible for results. You are responsible to be a clear channel. Your job is not to force outcomes. Your job is to allow infinite intelligence to work through you and then trust the outcome. The freedom this brings is extraordinary. You stop carrying the weight of making everything work. You stop lying awake at night worrying about whether you did enough. You stop defining your worth by measurable success. You do excellent work because you are moved by inner prompting. Then you release the results and rest in knowing the Father within does the works and the Father's ways are higher than your ways. Joel practiced this in every aspect of his life. He prepared talks and teachings with great care, then released concern about how people would receive them. He wrote books with full attention, then let go of attachment to sales or recognition. He counseled people with complete presence, then trusted their unfoldment to divine wisdom rather than his ability. This was not detachment born of not caring. This was freedom born of knowing he was the instrument, not the source. The fifth practice is living in a state of receptivity. This is the most advanced and most misunderstood teaching. Most people, even spiritual seekers, are focused on doing something to make spiritual power manifest. They meditate to achieve peace. They affirm to create prosperity. They visualize to produce healing. All of this is still human effort trying to manipulate divine power. It is still, I am doing something to make results happen. Joel taught the opposite. The highest spiritual practice is receptivity. Not doing, but allowing. Not achieving, but receiving. Not making things happen, but recognizing what already is and letting it unfold. Before you try to create anything, pause and acknowledge. Everything I could ever need already exists in divine consciousness. Health, abundance, wisdom, love, peace, purpose. All of it is already present in the Father within. My role is not to create it. My role is to open myself to receive it. I am not the source. I am the vessel. The Father pours. I receive. The Father acts. I allow. Sit in this receptive state regularly, not trying to feel anything special, not working to produce an experience, simply being open, simply being willing, simply acknowledging, I am here, available for infinite wisdom to move through me, however it chooses. This feels like doing nothing to the human mind. That is precisely the point. You are getting the human doer out of the way, so the divine doer can work unobstructed. Joel said, receptivity is harder for most people than activity because we have been trained to believe our worth comes from doing. To simply be, to simply receive, to simply allow. This feels wrong to the ego, but this is the highest practice. This is the secret of all true accomplishment. The Father within does the works. Your job is to get out of the way, not through passivity or laziness, but through conscious receptivity, through active allowing, through intentional recognition that you are the channel, not the source. If you are learning to release control and live from divine source within, support this content. Subscribe to continue the journey and comment which challenge you are facing right now. Now let me address the challenges you will face in living this way. The first challenge is the voice that says, but I have to work. I have to take action. I cannot just sit around waiting for God to do everything. This is a misunderstanding of what the Father within does the works actually means. It does not mean passivity. It does not mean doing nothing. Jesus worked constantly. He taught. He healed. He traveled miles on foot. Paul worked making tents while spreading the gospel. Moses led an entire nation through the wilderness. Every example of someone living from the Father within still involved action. The difference is the source of the action. Here is the key distinction. When you work as a separate self trying to accomplish things through personal power, that is exhausting. You are drawing on limited resources. You are operating from fear and striving. You are carrying the full weight. When you work as an instrument through which the Father works, that is energizing. You are drawing on infinite resources. You are operating from inner prompting and peace. You are participating in something larger than yourself. Think of it this way. Your hand writes these words. But is your hand the source of the thought behind the words? No. Your brain is directing your hand. Your hand is the instrument through which brain intelligence expresses. In the same way, you take action. But you are not the source of the intelligence directing the action. The Father within. Infinite wisdom. Divine consciousness. This is the brain, and you are the hand. When the hand tries to write without the brain, you get meaningless scribbles. When the hand allows the brain to direct it, you get coherent communication. When you try to live as a separate self, doing everything through personal effort, you get struggle and limitation. When you allow the Father within to direct your action, you get harmonious unfoldment. So yes, you work. Yes, you take action. But you work with the Father. Not separate from the Father, you act from inner guidance, not outer pressure. You participate in divine activity rather than trying to be the activity yourself. The second challenge is impatience when results do not appear immediately. You practice acknowledging the Father within. You turn to inner presence before action. You surrender outcomes. But outwardly, nothing seems to change. Bills are still due. Health still struggles. Relationships still conflict. Doubt whispers. This mystical approach does not work in the real world. You are tempted to go back to human effort. At least that felt like doing something. Joel warned about this impatience. You are undoing decades of conditioning. Years of believing external circumstances are the cause and you must manipulate them to change your experience. Perhaps a lifetime of thinking you are a separate self who must make things happen through personal power. This reversal does not happen overnight for most people. Some experience immediate breakthrough. Others require weeks or months of consistent practice. Neither is better or worse. Both are valid paths. The key is understanding that transformation happens in consciousness before it manifests in circumstances. The inner shift precedes the outer change. You might practice for weeks and see no external difference, but something profound is happening internally. Neural pathways are being restructured. Belief systems are dissolving. Consciousness is expanding. The outer world must eventually reflect this inner transformation. It is law. But the timing is not controlled by human impatience. Divine wisdom knows the perfect timing for manifestation. Your job is to remain faithful to the practice regardless of appearances. Keep acknowledging the Father within. Keep turning to presence first. Keep surrendering outcomes. Do this not because you see results, but because you are recognizing truth. The results will follow. Not because you earn them through good practice, but because consciousness expressing as form is the natural order of reality. When consciousness shifts, form must follow. The third challenge is guilt over not doing enough. You practice 5 minutes and feel you should do more. You acknowledge presence once and think it is insufficient. You compare yourself to advanced practitioners and feel inadequate. This guilt itself is seeking second. It is measuring spiritual practice by material standards. Quantity over quality. Effort over sincerity. Joel taught that 1 moment of genuine recognition is worth hours of mechanical practice. 5 minutes of true presence surpasses days of forced meditation. The kingdom of spirit is not opened by time. It is revealed by depth, by sincerity, by actual recognition rather than intellectual performance. Stop counting minutes. Start valuing genuine connection. Here is the permission you need. Your practice does not need to look like anyone else's. Joel meditated for hours each day. You might connect genuinely in 60 seconds. What matters is not matching his external form. What matters is your internal sincerity. Are you truly acknowledging the Father within, or just going through spiritual motions while secretly still seeking second? Still trying to make things happen through human effort? Release the guilt. Embrace your own path. Some people need long meditation. Others find presence in brief moments throughout the day. Both are valid. Both work. The question is not how much you practice. The question is, are you actually practicing? Are you truly prioritizing consciousness over circumstances? Are you genuinely recognizing source before seeking solutions? That alone is enough. That alone is seeking first. That alone is letting the Father within do the works. The fourth challenge is dealing with skepticism from others. You begin living from the Father within. Your priorities shift. Your responses change. People notice. Family questions your new perspective. Friends mock your mystical language. Colleagues think you joined a cult. Their skepticism stirs your own doubt. Maybe they are right. Maybe this is just spiritual escapism. Maybe you should be more practical, more realistic, more focused on actual effort. Joel faced intense criticism from religious authorities. They called his teachings dangerous, heretical, too mystical for practical Christianity. He remained unmoved, not from arrogance but from knowing. He had experienced the kingdom within himself. He had witnessed countless transformations. Others' opinions could not shake what he had proven true through living. You need the same grounded knowing, not to argue or convince, but to stand firm in your practice regardless of external validation. Let your life demonstrate the truth. Let your peace speak louder than their skepticism. Let your results prove what words cannot. Seeking first is not a belief requiring defense. It is a reality requiring demonstration. When others question you, simply say you are exploring a different approach. You do not need their approval. You do not need their understanding. You only need your own commitment to putting first the acknowledgement that the Father within does the works. Their skepticism is their journey. Your transformation is yours. Focus on inner recognition, not external persuasion. On knowing within, not validation without. On being, not convincing others. Now let me show you how to integrate this completely into every area of life. Most people compartmentalize spirituality. They have their practice in the morning, then live from ego consciousness all day. They acknowledge presence briefly, then spend hours seeking second. They visit the kingdom momentarily, then remain immersed in problems. This divided consciousness limits transformation. Joel taught something far more advanced. Seeking first must become continuous recognition, not constant meditation, but unceasing awareness. When you work, silently know divine intelligence is directing you. When you interact with others, recognize the Father within them. When you face challenge, remember the presence within. This does not mean constantly thinking spiritual thoughts. It means living from deeper awareness. Awareness that exists beneath surface thinking. Joel called this practicing the presence, not as a technique but as a way of life. Not as effort but as remembering. Like being aware of breathing. You do not have to force it. You are simply conscious of what is already happening. Presence is always present. You simply remember to recognize it throughout the day rather than only during formal practice. Start small. Set gentle reminders on your phone. The Father within. Divine presence. Seek first, not as tasks to complete, but as invitations to remember. Each reminder brings you back to consciousness, back to truth, back to the reality beneath appearances. Over time, this remembering becomes automatic, natural, your default state rather than occasional practice. Advanced integration involves putting first in relationships. This is where most spiritual practices fail. You can maintain inner peace alone, but when dealing with difficult people, consciousness shatters. Someone criticizes you and reactive ego explodes. Your partner disappoints you and seeking second dominates. Family irritates you and you feel kingdom far away. Joel taught something transformational here. Every person is consciousness manifesting as individual form. When you interact with someone, you are not meeting their personality. You are meeting the same divine presence that is within you. This changes everything. You stop reacting to appearances. You start recognizing reality. The kingdom within them, even when their behavior does not reflect it. This does not mean tolerating abuse. It means seeing beyond behavior to essence. Recognizing their true nature even when they have forgotten it. This awareness in you can awaken awareness in them. Not always immediately. Not always obviously. But consciousness, responding to consciousness, has power that personality reacting to personality does not. Practice this today. Choose one difficult person. Before your next interaction, take 1 minute to acknowledge the Father within them. Recognize divine presence as their true essence. Then interact naturally. Notice how the energy shifts, how your reaction softens, how new possibilities emerge. You are putting first even in relationship, prioritizing awareness over circumstance. This transforms both of you. Advanced seekers must learn to put first with money. This trips up even experienced practitioners. They can maintain recognition with health and relationships. But financial issues trigger primal fear. Bills arrive and panic overrides practice. Unexpected expenses appear, and seeking second dominates. Retirement looms, and kingdom seems irrelevant. Joel addressed this directly. Money is not supply. Consciousness is supply. Money is simply one form supply takes. When you put first the acknowledgement that the Father within is infinite abundance, you stop believing money is the source of your security. You stop seeking security in bank balances. You begin living from inner knowing that divine intelligence provides through whatever means it chooses. This does not mean money magically appears without action. It means you stop placing faith in money and start placing faith in source. You stop living from fear of not enough and start living from recognition of infinite abundance already present in consciousness. The practical application requires courage. When financial fear arises, pause before checking accounts or calculating budgets. Acknowledge the Father within. Recognize infinite supply as spiritual truth. Divine provision is an established fact in consciousness. You are not denying practical responsibility. You are handling it from right foundation, trusting source over form. Joel witnessed countless examples of this principle. People lost income and found better opportunities. Businesses collapsed and new ventures emerged. Debt mounted and unexpected resources arrived. Not through fantasy, but through consciousness shift. When you truly put first the recognition that the Father within is supply, provision flows through channels you could not have orchestrated. This is grace. This is the kingdom. This is what happens when consciousness precedes condition. The highest integration is putting first in crisis. When life collapses, when worst fears materialize, when everything you built crumbles, this is when seeking first transforms from interesting concept to essential lifeline. Crisis reveals what you truly believe, the foundation you actually stand on. Whether consciousness or circumstances hold ultimate power. Joel's greatest teachings emerged from his own crises. Illness, financial collapse, dark nights of the soul. He learned to put first not when life felt good, but when everything felt impossible. To turn within, not when externally peaceful, but when internally shattered. To acknowledge the kingdom, especially when circumstances screamed its absence. This level requires everything. This is not shallow spirituality. This is absolute faith. You face devastation and choose presence. Experience loss and recognize divine wholeness. Meet darkness and acknowledge inner light. Not by denial, not by avoidance, but by knowing something deeper than appearances, something more real than circumstances, something unshakable within you. If you are in crisis right now, hear this carefully. The kingdom within you is untouched by whatever is happening to you. Divine presence remains perfect despite external chaos. Infinite intelligence is still operating even when you cannot see how. Seek first, especially now. Not for quick fix, but for solid ground. The crisis will pass. The consciousness you develop within it will remain forever. This is the deepest gift of transformation. We are approaching complete transformation. Everything you have learned converges here. Putting first that the Father within does the works is not spiritual theory. It is practical mysticism. It is how you actually live from consciousness instead of circumstances. It is how you demonstrate truth rather than just believe it. It is how you prove the kingdom Jesus promised 2,000 years ago. Complete transformation means your default response changes. Crisis no longer triggers panic. It prompts turning within. Challenge no longer creates fear. It invites deeper recognition. Problems no longer overwhelm. They reveal opportunities for consciousness to express. This is not perfection. This is perspective shift. A new operating system replacing the old. Joel described this as living by the Spirit. Not occasionally seeking spiritual help, but continuously living on spiritual foundation. Putting first becomes as natural as breathing, as automatic as worrying used to be, as instinctual as reacting used to be. You have actually restructured your brain, reprogrammed your consciousness, transformed your relationship with reality itself. This level is not reserved for saints or mystics. It is available to anyone willing to practice, to persist, to prioritize recognition consistently. Joel was an ordinary person who discovered extraordinary truth. You, an ordinary person, can do the same. The kingdom within you is identical to the kingdom within the greatest masters. Only recognition differs. Only seeking remains. Complete transformation includes witnessing your life restructure without force. Old habits dissolve. Toxic relationships naturally end or heal. Career path shifts into alignment. Health improves without struggle. Abundance flows without manipulation. Not because you created these changes, but because consciousness always seeks its own balance. Truth naturally reveals itself. Kingdom manifests through your experience. This does not happen instantly. Joel took years to fully embody these principles. But each day, you seek first. Transformation deepens. Each moment you prioritize consciousness. Restructuring continues. Each time you choose presence over panic. New pathways open. You are becoming living demonstration of mystical Christianity. Practical proof that Jesus' teachings work when properly understood. People will notice before you do. They will comment on your peace, question your confidence, wonder about your secret. You will realize you have changed not through effort but through recognition, through seeking first, through living from the kingdom within. through putting consciousness primary instead of secondary. This is Joel Goldsmith's legacy. Not complex theology, not religious dogma. Simple, profound, transformative truth. The Father within does the works. Make consciousness your foundation. Recognize divine presence as your reality. Live from this understanding regardless of appearances, and witness everything Jesus promised actually happen. All these things are added. Not will be in future, are added. Presentense. Every need met. Every problem addressed in presence. Your new life begins right now. Not someday, when you master these principles. Not after you perfect seeking first. But in this moment, with your next breath, in your next challenge. The kingdom within you is already complete. Already perfect. Already whole. Already lacking nothing. You do not need to improve it. You only need to recognize it. Tomorrow morning, before doing anything else, take 5 minutes to feel divine presence. Recognize the kingdom within. Sense the consciousness reading these very words. This is not preparation for life. This is life. This awareness. This presence. This recognition. Everything else is secondary. What matters is demonstrating that seeking throughout your day. Remember it in brief inward turns. Quick recognition of presence. Silent acknowledgement of the Father within doing the works. Not as interruption of your day, but as the foundation of your day. The reality sustaining all appearances. The truth, maintaining all temporary forms. This remembering transforms everything without changing anything external. Joel spent his life proving one thing. When you seek the kingdom, first genuinely and consistently, life works. Not perfectly, not without challenge, but with grace, with flow, with the natural abundance that consciousness expresses when allowed. This is not belief. This is demonstrable truth. Test it. Practice it. Live it. Discover for yourself what generations have missed. Now you know what nobody taught you. The real meaning of the Father within does the works. Not as religious teaching, but as practical mysticism. Not as distant promise, but as present reality. Not as external goal, but as inner recognition. This is Joel Goldsmith's gift to you. This is Jesus' teaching finally understood thoroughly. Your transformation has begun. Reaching this point means something has stirred in you. Recognition has occurred. However subtle, however much your mind doubts. Something deeper than thought has responded to truth. That is the kingdom recognizing itself. That is consciousness becoming aware of consciousness. That is you remembering who you have always been. This method is simple, yet revolutionary. Put consciousness first. Seek inner presence before outer solutions. Recognize divine reality as paramount. Handle external situations as secondary. Not ignoring them. Not denying them. But addressing them from foundation of inner knowing rather than outer panic. This one shift alone changes everything. Joel proved it. Thousands have proven it. Now it is your turn. Begin today. Not tomorrow. Not when life settles down. Not when you feel ready. Right now. This moment. Seek first that the Father within does the works. Recognize the presence. Acknowledge the consciousness. Rest in the awareness reading these words. This is it. This is the secret. This is what transforms. Welcome to the mystical Christianity Joel taught. Welcome to the kingdom Jesus promised. Welcome home to yourself. If your heart has been touched by the truth that the Father within does the works, like and share this video so others can be freed from the burden of trying to do everything themselves. Subscribe to the channel to continue the journey of living from divine source within. And if you are ready to release control and let God do the work, come on. The Father within me does the works. That is the declaration that will liberate your life. Remember this. You are never alone. You never have to carry everything yourself. The Father within you is doing, has done, and will forever do the works. Your only task is to recognize this and step aside. Welcome to true freedom.